Welcome, everyone. We're giving everyone a chance to file in real quick, and we will get started soon. Welcome for those of you who are just entering the room. We're going to wait as everybody files in. We're still seeing that participant number start to climb. So once that stables out, we'll get going. Okay. Well, my little ticker of attendees has kind of paused at a good place, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. Erica, if you want to move us to the next slide, I'll just first say welcome to everyone who's back. If you're someone who's been part of this process before, welcome back. For those who are new, great to have you. And I will turn it over to Angel real quick to introduce herself, and then I'll take it from there.
Thank you, Kelly, and thanks for everyone joining today for the webinar regarding the Unified Government Hollywood Casino Grant Funds. I'm Angel Ferrara, the Director of Parks and Recreation, and I am helping assist with some oversight of this program this year on behalf of the Unified Government. And I'm also working with Kelly Doyle with the Greater Kansas City Community Foundation. And so really thankful and happy to have her on. And I will turn it back over to Kelly to take us through the webinar.
Thanks so much, Angel. We are privileged to be able to work with the Unified Government on this grant application process. And so let's dig in and get started for the 2023 process. As some of you may know, from previous applications, in order to be eligible for this award, you have to be a 501c3 organization. So organizations that don't have a 501c3 can still apply, but they must do so under a fiscal sponsor. And we'll go over some of that in the next slide. But if you are a government agency, a religious institution, a neighborhood association, or any other type of organization that does not have a 501c3, you as an organization alone are ineligible to apply. The process will let your application go through, but that application will not proceed to the Unified Government for review unless it is done so through a 501c3 organization. If you are a 501c3 organization, please double check and make sure that your status is up to date with the IRS. If you are a 501c3, but that status is not up to date, it will get flagged, your application will get flagged, and it will not go through. We'll talk about fiscal sponsors next. So a fiscal sponsor is a partner organization or an entity that has to be a 501c3 organization to be eligible to be your fiscal sponsor for this competition. And you have to have a letter or an MOU that is a signed written agreement that outlines the relationship between your organization and the fiscal sponsor organization. The fiscal sponsor is responsible for the financial management of that and oversight of the grant dollars. So if you do apply under a fiscal sponsor, if you're not a 501c3, you can still receive those dollars, but that grant would get awarded to the fiscal sponsor and they would pass the dollars to you and be responsible for oversight. So if there was something that went wrong with the grant, we would go to that fiscal sponsor and say, hey, you know, we need to hear more about what's happening with the dollars that were awarded to you. So if you have questions, you can certainly reach out to me and I'll get you that information here later. But just again, can't emphasize enough, if you're not a 501c3, you will, in order to be eligible to apply, you'll need to apply through a fiscal sponsor, and that has to be a written agreement between yourself and another 501c3 organization. So we'll talk a little bit here about some restrictions and things not considered as eligible, well, not considered generally as funding priorities for this grant opportunity. One of the key components is that the Hollywood Casino Wyandotte County grant application is specifically focused for serving individuals and organizations serving individuals in Wyandotte County. So if you are from outside of Wyandotte County, but you have a program that operates within Wyandotte County specifically for Wyandotte County clients, you would be considered eligible to move through, and it would be up to the commissioners to decide if that would be a fit. But typically we are looking for organizations in and serving Wyandotte County. So I will also note, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, that you will be required to report zip codes of your clients served if you do receive a grant. So that's something that you may want to lift up in your application is who you're serving and the zip codes that where they reside, but primary focus, Wyandotte County. Some of the things that the award will generally not cover are capital campaign expenses, endowments, annual fund drives, direct support to individuals, and that includes scholarships, lobbying activities, activities specifically benefiting members of an athletic, veteran, or fraternal group, equipment expenses, and requests for general operating support unless they're considered to be significantly expanding your programs or services. If you do apply for one of the things on this list, your application will continue to go through to be reviewed by the commissioners. However, we will flag it and let them know that this applicant has applied for something that is not considered something to be of high priority. So it doesn't necessarily knock you out of eligible contention, but we will lift it up as something for them to consider as they make their award selections. So shifting now to the projects that the unified government is, oh, back up, there you go, perfect. Projects that the unified government is looking at as their highest priority. And those are projects that are that have a variety of different funding sources, both public, private, and you know, are utilizing partnerships, are not duplicative. And then the focus of this grant opportunity has always been to align with the Healthy Communities Wyandotte, working towards a happier and healthier Wyandotte for everyone. It is up to the commissioners how they individually interpret whether or not your project is a fit into this highest priority list. We typically get a lot of questions from applicants or potential grantees to say, hey, this is the program that I would like to apply for. Is it eligible? Well, if it meets the basic eligibility standards that we went through, 501c3, serving people in Wyandotte County, yes, you would be considered eligible. Is it a program of high priority? That's up to the commissioners as they go through and deliberate on each individual application. So these are the things that they have lifted up as their priorities. So if you have programs that fit into some of these categories, make sure that those are the ones you are centering through this application process. So grant amounts. This has been kind of a moving target for this year, but we just got some great information from the UG that we can add to this conversation. And I know some of you have reached out with questions about the amounts. The commissioners each and the mayor each get a certain amount of money each year. It gets split evenly between them. And this year that number will be $42,187 each. So each commissioner and the mayor each have that much to grant. That's relatively comparable to what we have seen in past years. The last couple years, there have been some rollover dollars. There are no rollover dollars this year for any of the commissioners. And if we have more questions about this at the end, we can certainly address them. But I do want to lift up that in 2022, grants ranged from $1,000 to $30,000, so a pretty good range there, and that the average grant award was $9,300. So really important when you're shaping your application to keep those things in mind. Typically, you will not get the full amount of what is requested. However, there have been some years where applicants have been given over what they've requested, and that is in part due because the way that this grant process works is a little bit different than some of the other grants that nonprofits are used to, where board members come together, make a collective decision, and move with one grant. This application process, each commissioner, because they have their own pot of dollars, makes their own election on how much money from their pot they will put into each kind of organization or application that they would like to fund. So you can get a mix of commissioners that are supporting your application financially. So that is why we always recommend reaching out to the commissioners to identify if your project is something that they would be prioritizing or looking forward to funding in the future or through this application process this year. We did lift up earlier that grantees are required to report zip code data for their program service participants. And so just keep that in mind as not only as you're putting together your application, but as you're considering whether or not to apply. If you don't have the infrastructure to be able to track that data and report on that data, reporting is an important component to this process. And so just keep that in mind and in consideration. There will be 2 reports. Oh, sorry, back one more. There will be 2 reports. In the past, there have been 3. So this has been a way to kind of help streamline a little bit more the process. But 2 reports due if you are awarded. One will be due in March of 2024, and the other final report due in July of 2024. Okay, and I think, sorry, Erica, we're ready. I skipped around on you a little bit. All right, so as Angel mentioned, I am at the Greater Kansas City Community Foundation, and we partner with the unified government to help administer this process. And so each of us has different roles in the process. So we like to be transparent about what those roles are so that we can best serve and support you all as you are moving through the application process. At the Community Foundation, we will be providing the technical assistance to all applicants through the application process. That will be through our grants team. Once all the applications are submitted and in, we review all applications for eligibility. And the eligibility criteria that we discussed before, those will be the things that we will either pull your application out or send your application through. All eligible applicants will go to the commission for review and for them to make elections on. I do want to lift up that applicants that previously received a grant award, interim reports from 2022 will also be provided to the commissioners this year. So if you are not up to date on your reporting for 2022, we highly encourage you to do so, because when those applications for 2023 that you submit this year go to the commissioners, they will be paired with your report, your interim report. So make sure to get those up to date if they are not. And then we also provide data on any past reporting compliance. That's something that the commissioners ask us for pretty regularly. So again, I can't stress enough, make sure that your reports are up to date, and especially by the time that you submit your application. So the role of the Board of Commissioners and Mayor. So once we pass all eligible applications and kind of a general summary, like, hey, here's what we saw about what people are applying for. and how it fits into the areas that you, may not fund. The role of the commissioners is to do that selection, to read the applications and determine which organizations and projects that they would like to fund and which fit into their perspective of what the priorities are in Wyandotte County. So each commissioner and the mayor will designate in writing how much money they wish to allocate out of their share of the funds to each of the applicants that they'd like to award to. And then the final distribution of funds will be approved by a majority vote of the commissioners at the commission meeting. Once that vote happens, that comes back to us at the Community Foundation, and we will send out notifications alerting you as to whether or not your application has received an award or has been declined. So important dates to know. We've already kind of hit a couple dots here on this timeline, but the application did open on April 5th. We are here right now at April 18th on our grant information session, and the application will close at 5:00 p.m. on May 3rd. That 5:00 p.m. is a hard deadline. Okay, so we really encourage you all not to wait to the last second, the last moment, the last day. Get those applications in early. After 5 p.m., if we receive an application after 5 p.m., it will be considered ineligible. It will not go through. So our team will be here to assist you with any needs as you approach that deadline, but it always helps us if you start a little bit early and try to submit maybe a day or two before that deadline. So once those applications come in, we'll go through the process that I just described, and the commissioners will make their selections and get everything back to us by the end of June. In July, your final reports for any 2022 grantees will be due by 5 p.m. on July 15th. And then we anticipate awards for this 2023 application process being sent out around the same time in July. So the big question, you're interested, you're thinking I'm a great fit, I would like to apply for this grant. How do I even do that? So what you'll do is you'll go to growyourgiving.org/grant. And that is on our webpage at the Greater Kansas City Community Foundation. And you can find it under competitive grant opportunities. But you'll look for the Unified Government Hollywood Casino Fund and click into that guidance. In order to submit an application, once you get to that page, you'll need to register through our SurveyMonkey Apply system. And that is the system that we use for all of our grant applications. If your organization isn't registered, you'll just need to register, which is a pretty quick process. And you'll see a button in the upper right-hand corner to do so. And I'll show you a picture of that so everybody sees that on our next slide here. But once you've got yourself registered for an account, then you will be able to apply for the grant opportunity. When you do that registration process, we do recommend that you use a general email account for your organization if you have one. You know, an example is like at info@growyourgiving.org, or perhaps, you know, grants@growyourgiving.org. If you have any questions about the registration process or navigating the application in our SurveyMonkey Apply system, our grants team is going to be your best contacts. Their information is right there below, grants@growyourgiving.org or 816-627-3452. We have a great team who is wonderful, receptive, and ready to help you navigate that process. You'll see this again, but if you forget everything about this webinar, knowing how to get to our grants team is probably one of the things to remember. So this is a quick visual for what it will look like when you get into the Unified Government Hollywood Casino Fund page. You'll see the guidance here on the left, and then an apply button. And then up in that top right-hand corner, you see that little register button if you follow the yellow arrow. So if you're not registered, you click that register button, get yourself set up. And then once you're set up in our system, you should be able to click apply and move through that pretty quickly. One thing I will say is that before you register and apply, we recommend reading the guidelines there on the left-hand side in full so that you can ensure that you are eligible and that you will be able to meet the criteria for this grant application. So there are a couple of changes that we wanted to bring to your attention for those of you who have applied for this opportunity for a few years in a row. The first change that is that you'll see in the 2023 application process is that if you are a returning grantee, you are no longer required to report on your 2022 application within the grant application. So as I mentioned before, instead of having to report within the application, we're going to pair your January reports with your grant application, and those will go to the commissioners. Another change that we've made is that there's no mandatory use of the project budget form. We certainly have the template in there that you can utilize if you'd like. But if you already have your project budget in your own form and you would like to just upload and submit that, that is absolutely okay. The submitted budgets still do need to show revenue and expense breakdown. So please make sure you have both of those so that we don't have to kind of chase you down and say, hey, we need a new budget. And you will still be required to answer some of the budget narrative questions. Those will still remain, but that mandatory project budget form has been dropped, and you can utilize what you have already. And then finally, there are no requirements to provide detailed information on your board of directors as we have in the past. If you already have a list of your board of directors, please just upload that into the system, and that should cover that requirement. So a few helpful hints or tips for this grant application process. As I mentioned, reading the grant guidelines is always number one. Make sure you are eligible before you apply. If you apply and complete an application and you are ineligible, your application will not go through to the commissioners. And I would hate for, all of us would hate for you to do all that work and not be able to move through. So if you have any questions about eligibility, you can certainly reach out to me and my team, and we can guide you as best we can. Or if you have any questions about the fiscal sponsorship, we can help guide you on that as well. I also mentioned this a little bit earlier in the webinar, but it's rare that an organization receives the full amount that they're requesting. So make sure you take that into consideration that as you're framing your request. Again, make sure you're up to date on reporting, reports, and compliance data for past reporting will go to the commissioners. One thing that I haven't mentioned so far is make sure to stick to the application. If you send any additional items such as letter of support or upload pictures, those things will not go through. Only the standard questions that are provided within the application will go through to the commissioners. So excess will not move forward. And then finally, I just want to remind everyone that, because the commission is making the determination on, and the mayor are making the determination on how they want to spend their dollars, we at the Community Foundation are not able to advise any grantee or potential grantee on the likelihood that your submission would be funded. So you are free to reach out and contact the commissioners or the mayor to discuss your project at any time during this application process and to identify whether or not they would be supportive of your application. So here again are some of the important names and numbers to remember. Again, I'm Kelly Doyle, and so any general inquiries or eligibility questions, you can direct to me. My phone number and email are right there. If you have questions about navigating the SurveyMonkey Apply process or the application, that will go to our grants team, Afton Baxter and Sarah Forgy. Their number and email are there. And then again, I wanted to lift up the Healthy Communities Wyandotte webpage for those who are unfamiliar with that. Awesome. So I think, Angel, unless you have anything else you would like to add, we can probably go to questions. Okay. I see some questions in the Q&A. Will this recording be available later? And I think, Ashley, you are probably planning on sending that out. Is that correct?
Yes, we will be posting the recording and the presentation on our website, and you will all receive a follow-up email automatically from Zoom in 24 hours that just sends it out automatically after the closure of this event.
Great. Thank you so much. And I see a question in here from Jeff Brownlee. Is fitness equipment eligible? And again, equipment was something on the list of items that is not typically funded. However, it would not be marked as ineligible. Your application would still go through. Again, I would encourage you to reach out to the commissioners to see if that is something that they feel is a fit with what they are trying to achieve, especially with the Healthy Wyandotte initiatives. All right. It looks like some of these we've already answered. So what the amount that each commissioner gets, I'll go ahead and repeat that so that everybody can write it down if you missed it the first time. But each commissioner should be receiving $42,187. Okay. And I see one from, are school districts eligible to apply, or must it be a nonprofit organization? So yes, or no, school districts are not eligible to apply, but you can apply through a fiscal sponsor. So you have to be a 501c3 organization in order to apply. So if a school district would like to partner with another organization that is a 501c3 through a fiscal sponsor agreement or through a collaborative partnership to apply for this application, you can certainly do so. But if you just applied alone as a district, your application would not go through as eligible. There is a question in here about, do we have a sample MOU? And I'm assuming that's in reference to the fiscal sponsor. And yes, we do. And we can make that available on our application page, I believe, on the Greater Kansas City Community Foundation page. And then we can also send that to the UG and have them put it up on their page as well, if that would be helpful. So would the board of directors be for the organization or for the fiscal agent? That's a great question. So when a fiscal agent applies, they would be the ones that would be responsible. So I believe, in Afton, you can jump in here if I'm incorrect, but the board of directors would be for the fiscal sponsor. Yes. Okay. The board of directors would be for the fiscal sponsor. Okay. All right, sorry, I'm moving through these questions. Can we find out which commissioners funded us last year? So that would be a UG question. So I'll hand that one over to Angel or Erica.
Thanks, Kelly. Erica, I don't know if you have any insight on this. I can check. I actually don't know the answer off the top of my head, but I can follow back up.
Yeah, I think we need to research and figure out how that was handled previously for us to be consistent. So we'll get back with you on that.
Yeah, I know in the past they have, after awards, they have posted that in the minutes of the commission meeting, so you can find out which commissioners have awarded. I don't know though if how long you all keep that up retroactively. Or if that's still something that's up on your website, or if it was would have been taken down. So we'll get back to you all on that one on whether or not you can continue to find that. Where do we find the reporting process for past grants received? That's a great question. And the reports are all through your SurveyMonkey Apply account. So you would need to log on to your SurveyMonkey Apply account if you have an outstanding grant report that would be in there. And if you need help kind of navigating that process, you can reach out to our grants team. Or you can email me. I can check and see if you have any outstanding. Okay. Please discuss in more detail the zip code reporting that you mentioned. So there is a question on the reports that asks you what zip codes the participants you're serving reside in. And so you're just asked to essentially identify what zip codes those are. There isn't any complex formal reporting process of it, but if you're not already collecting zip code data on the people you're serving, you will need to do so for this grant. Angel, any other pieces that you think might be helpful there? I don't know if the commissioners look at that in a certain way.
I'm not sure either. I don't have any additional help information that would be helpful other than what you provided, Kelly.
Yeah, I'm sure the commissioners are looking at that just to see like where the people you're serving are coming from and if they are, within their jurisdictions. So hopefully that helped answer the question. If not, please follow up with me and I'll try to help you as best I can. But nothing complex, but make sure you're tracking zip code if you're not already. Are food costs for youth programming typically funded when included in a budget? Again, this is one of those, it's gonna depend on how the commissioners feel about it individually. With the commissioners each having roughly 42,000 each, they're divvying up their grant dollars between a bunch of different projects. I don't know that they, typically identify specific line items in the budget that they are willing to fund or not willing to fund. It probably varies depending on commissioner. So again, I would encourage you to reach out to your commissioners or the mayor and chat about your program. And if they believe it's something that would be valued either by themselves or the other commissioners. Do you consider staff and general operating expense, example, a program coordinator position? So again, general operating expenses are one of those items that we typically would say, hey, this is something you've said that that it's not among your funding priorities. However, I think there are a lot of us that recognize that programs don't happen without staff to support them. So again, your application would be eligible. It would go through for consideration. It will be up to you to determine whether or not including, program staff or a program coordinator salary expense in your budget is something, or in the requested items of your budget is something that you, is necessary for you to do the program. And again, I'd say, talk to the commissioners to see if that's something that they are willing to fund. When registering, do you register under the organization name or under the fiscal sponsor? So I'm going to bring in, I wonder if I can bring in Afton for this, because she has the better knowledge of. So Ashley, I'm not sure if I can make, let's see. So Afton, I'm promoting you to a panelist. And hopefully I did that right, and she'll be able to jump in here and discuss a little bit more.
And while we wait really quick, Kelly, for the program coordinator, it's going to be great within the narrative for you to describe how that's growing your program or how that's going to be serving additional Wyandotte County citizens as you are justifying why that is a great investment in your organization.
Awesome, thank you. And it looks like I've got Afton on here to help us with the fiscal sponsor application piece.
Yes, so if you are applying with a fiscal sponsor, I would first check with your fiscal sponsor and see if they already have an account on our website. They might, where they have already submitted other applications. And if that's the case, we can work with you to get you in as a user on their account, and so that you can apply under their name in their account, and they'll also have access to view your application. If they don't already have an account and you're still using them as a fiscal sponsor, you can go ahead and register your own agency's name, and the application will include other questions about who your fiscal sponsor is, so that we have their information as well.
Thanks, Afton. And I'm just going to keep you on as a panelist in case we have any more of the SM Apply kind of questions and how that works. So
Great, thank you.
yeah, thanks. Okay. Sorry, I've got to catch back up. Is your grant, if your grant is deemed ineligible, will the grantee be notified in a timely manner? So if you are deemed ineligible, you will, your application will not go through, but you will not be notified until official award or decline notifications go out. So you will be basically notified that your application has been declined, but there's no eligible, ineligible notification. Again, the guidance is there, so read it in full before you apply. Make sure that you are eligible by the criteria that we have outlined. If you have questions about that, please, about whether or not you are eligible, please give me a call, and I'd be happy to help you figure that out. But no, if you are ineligible, your application will not go through, and you will not be notified until official notifications come out. Okay. Is funding reimbursement based or provided upfront? That's a great question. So with this grant opportunity, once you, if you are awarded, you will receive a notification that says you are awarded, and we will release checks. So it is not reimbursement based. You will be provided the check up front. Again, there is a reporting process, so you are required to let us know how those dollars were spent, and to ensure that they are spent in alignment with the application that you have and budget that you have provided. So, okay, if we serve 2 counties, but can clearly demonstrate data from Wyandotte County, are we eligible? So this is a great question. if you serve 2 counties, but you are serving Wyandotte County, you are not considered ineligible so long as the dollars that you're requesting are for specifically for Wyandotte County services. So you can, again, serve multiple communities, but the project or program that you're applying for and the dollars that you are being granted must stay in Wyandotte County. So hopefully that answered that question. And if it didn't, please feel free to follow up with me. If you missed a report in the previous year before 2022, would you need to complete a report for that period? I'm not sure if those are still available. And I would say, no, you wouldn't have to. Typically, what the commissioners are asking us for are for reports from the 2 past years. So for 2023, we typically provide compliance data on 2022 reports and 2021 reports. That is not to say that the commissioners may not reach out and ask for more historical data on reporting compliance, but typically we have provided the past 2 years. So for this year, we would be supplying them with 2021 and 2022 reporting compliance data. Please discuss in more detail the zip code reporting that you mentioned. I think I got that one already. If whoever submitted that question, or if someone else has questions about that, if you need more information, just reach out to me and I'm happy to help. What other data is recommended to collect for reporting purposes and grant application? That's a great question. I would say any type, you're going to need to talk about in the application the outcomes that your project will achieve. Again, the commissioners are looking at alignment with Healthy Wyandotte. So make sure to review some of the aims and targets of that program and those initiatives. And if there are ways to align or to easily align the data that you're collecting traditionally for your programs with some of those same metrics that they are looking at across a broader scope of Wyandotte County, those might be important pieces to think about including. So no hard fast rules on how you're measuring your data specifically, but making sure that it's aligning with some of the priorities that that Wyandotte County and the unified government have lifted up, I think is really important. Angel and Erica, any other thoughts there that you would add?
No, the data just helps us drive the story about how these funds are benefiting Wyandotte County as a whole. So the better your data story, the better it is that we're able to communicate with the county and our commissioners about how those funds are being used and how they're benefiting our community, and will help to further your narrative going forward as well.
Great, thank you, Erica. If the application is declined, do we receive notes on why so we can strengthen our application for the next cycle? So no, you wouldn't receive notes generally speaking with a declination. However, you are again open to reaching out to your commissioners to talk about the review process and ask that question. They would probably be the ones to best inform you about whether or not a future application is something that you should pursue, or if there was just something that perhaps they didn't have enough funding for that cycle. If the nonprofit has received 2 grants in the past, with the last one granted last summer, 2022, can they submit an application this year? Yes, so if you are a 2022 grantee, you can submit an application for this 2023 cycle. They are 1-year grant awards. So once you have completed the 2022 cycle or 2022 grant cycle, you can be awarded additional dollars. So past awards do not preclude you from receiving funding in this application cycle. Again, make sure that you're up to date on your reporting, and each year is a new and different year. So don't necessarily count on getting an award or the same award that you got in previous years. Okay, can you share where to find the Wyandotte priorities and unified government can be found? And I'm going to punt that one over to Angel and Erica to help you navigate that question.
So all of these can be found on the UG's website, and links can be found on the Hollywood Casino Grant Program website, where all of you hopefully were able to sign up for this webinar.
Okay. And like I mentioned earlier, we can get a sample of a fiscal sponsor agreement for them to add to their site as well. Let's see, I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat. So if anybody has any last minute questions, please feel free to pop those in there and we can get to those before you leave. If not, Erica, can you move back one slide so that folks can just scribble down contact information? There you go, perfect. So again, if you have questions, please reach out to me at the information provided there. Questions about navigating SurveyMonkey Apply and the application in the SurveyMonkey Apply portal or getting registered, please reach out to our grants team. They are more than happy to help with that. Afton, anything else to add from our end on SM Apply and the application portal?
No, I think you've covered it. Again, if you have any questions, please let us know.
Okay, I see one more question coming in. Where can I find more information about the Healthy Wyandotte initiative? So if you go to this website, that's on the bottom of the slide, www.hcwyco.org. That is where you'll find the Healthy Communities Wyandotte, which is has been for several years the part of the priorities for this funding application. Anything to add here, Erica and Angel?
Nothing from us.
Awesome. All right, well, now we're just getting lots of thanks. So appreciate everybody pinging that in that Q&A. Again, we're happy to help you through this process. If you have questions, reach out. If not, good luck on your 2023 application. We look forward to our continued partnership with the UG. All right, Angel, Erica, anything to say before we close?
We're looking forward to all the applications. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.